On October 12, 1875, in the city of Warwickshire, England, a little boy was born, named Edward. Edward was born into a very religious family, and his grandfather had a very successful distillery for liquor. But Edward's mother and father was so religious that they thought selling alcohol was a sin, so they wouldn't accept a dime from his grandfather. Edward was being raised in a family like this, and since he was a very religious boy, at school he would relate everything he learned, and whenever he talked to his friends, he would relate it to religion. Hence why he always got beat up in school, because he related everything to religion. In the age of 11, Edward's father got tongue cancer and passed away. While all this is happening, his mother becomes extremely ill. Since Edward was a very young boy, his uncle felt bad for him and told him to come live with me, and they hire a little caretaker for his mother. When Edward goes to his uncle's house, he's confronted with a whole new world. There is all types of drugs and alcohol available, and there is even prostitutes in his house. He lived with his uncle like this for a few years, and his uncle would always tell him, "Religion is for losers, why do you believe in it so much?" It seems like his uncle influenced him to hate religion. After a few years, he finally decides to go back to his mother's house. When his mother was confronted with her very religious son, she got very surprised because he was a whole new man now. He went from being a very religious boy to an evil personality that didn't care about anything. To even seal the deal, Edward tells his mother that "I am the devil." It really seems like he was becoming a devil, and he really wanted to show his mother that he is. He convinces his mother's caretaker to have sex with him inside his own mother's bed, or maybe he rapes her, we're not sure. After that day, Edward's mother does not talk to him anymore because he can't stand him. Edward was no normal Joe, he was actually very smart, which is why in the age of 19 he enters Cambridge University. When he enters college, he changes his name. His name becomes Aleister Crowley instead of Edward Crowley. Before Aleister went to his uncle's house, he was always punished and beaten at school for his religion, and that's why he had a type of hate towards religion. And finally, at his university, he was free. If you believe a lack of freedom in a child's life is gonna make him angry at his life, this is what happened to Aleister Crowley. Since he was free, he was doing whatever he wanted, even turned into a bisexual in university. A lot of people say that he truly was not gay or bisexual, but he hated the Christian religion so much that just to show them that he hates them, he did these bisexual acts. When Aleister Crowley finally graduates university, his grandfather with the distillery business passes away as well, and most of that wealth goes to Aleister Crowley himself. You could say things were getting worse, because a devilish young man had all that money accessible to him. After college, he enters a cult that believes that ancient Jewish and Egyptian writings is going to help us understand magic. This cult basically got together, drank a bunch of alcohol, and read ancient Egyptian and Jewish texts. Do yoga. Finally, get to know yourself, and then maybe you can learn magic. It didn't take very long where Aleister Crowley became the leader of this cult. He even added something else to their tradition of trying to find out how to do magic. He said, "We need to do psychedelics." Other people of the cult started to fear him, and they told him he's really turning into the devil. But that attracted even more people to join their cult, so the numbers of the group was not going down. 1 year later, in the year 1899, when Aleister Crowley is only 24 years old, he buys a massive mansion just for their cult to get together and practice this nonsense devil-worshipping tradition. You might say, what the hell is this nonsense and this cult? But it seems like Aleister Crowley truly believed in this cult, and he thought he could have access to magic. And hundreds of people were following him in this little cult. Some people that study Aleister Crowley's writings, they say that he probably had sadism, at least towards religious people. Sadism basically means you get satisfaction by making people suffer. Like in the year 1903, he gets to know a girl named Rose Edith Kelly. And it's interesting to note, the day they met was Rose's wedding day, and she was supposed to get married in a few hours. Aleister Crowley influences her in a way that she does not go to her wedding and leaves with Aleister himself, even though they met a couple hours ago, but Rose wanted to marry Aleister. The next day, Rose Edith Kelly becomes Aleister Crowley's first official wife. Crowley knew that her mother and father are gonna come looking for her because she literally left on her wedding day, which is why for their honeymoon, they left to Egypt on the same day. It seems like Rose had become obsessed with Aleister Crowley, and she would believe and agree with everything he said, even a lot of words about magic and his cult. It didn't take much longer, but Rose also entered the cult. They keep getting crazier. The cult continues to get bigger and bigger, and Aleister Crowley seems like he has an unlimited amount of money, and the only thing he worries about is his own cult. It seems like Crowley was a very charismatic person, and whenever he started speaking, people would listen, at least very weird people. And that's how he got people to join his cult, which was getting rather massive. 6 years later, when you get to the year 1909, Rose, Crowley's wife, has gone insane, which is why she is sent to an insane asylum. But Rose wasn't the first person in this cult to enter the insane asylum, because a lot of people of the cult were sent there. We're not sure if they were actually prone to becoming insane, or it was something that Aleister Crowley was doing that was making these people insane. We don't know. And another interesting thing is that every person will be an alcoholic in this cult. When Aleister Crowley's wife goes to the insane asylum, this is when he decides to create a brand new cult. And the name of it is Thelema. But Crowley himself didn't call this a cult. He considered Thelema a religion. Thelema is a religion that even has its own holy book. The book is called the Book of the Law, written by Aleister Crowley himself. After creating this religion, this is when he leaves his mansion in England and goes to buy a villa in Italy so he can expand his religion over there. After a while, this villa turns into one of the worst houses you've ever seen. All types of drugs are there, all types of prostitution and disgusting people with their children present all around them. One of the many drugs that they used inside this villa was LSD, which is a very strong hallucinogen. One of the writings in the Book of the Law says that use so much LSD that you're not afraid of anything. The villa was located in Sicily, Italy, and the people that were going in and out of this house was terrifying the locals. They didn't know what the hell is happening in this house. We have writings from the locals back in the day that the people that go in and out of this house are like wild animals. It's interesting to note that the same villa is still there in Sicily, even though a full century has passed by, but the people still believe that this house is cursed, hence why it has no true value because nobody wants to buy it. Another terrifying thing they would do is get different types of animals and sacrifice it on the terrace of the building, and the locals would see all that go down. When we say sacrifice, we're not talking about sheep and goats. We're talking about all types of animals that they can find, from cats to dogs, to horses. Any animal they felt like needed to be sacrificed, they would kill it in front of everyone. I wish the story stopped there, but no. What would they do with the blood? They would all pour it in individual cup and drink it together. The people of Sicily would always complain to the government, the local government, that there is these Satan riders living amongst us and you guys have to do something about it. But it was Sicily and the government didn't really seem to care, because this went on for 3 years until the local government finally came to inspect what is happening and kicked everybody out in this cult, including Aleister Crowley. And it's interesting because the same villa is still in Sicily where you can go see it, but it has no true value because it is known as the House of Satan. When Aleister was finally kicked out of Italy, he realized that he shouldn't stay in Europe, and he decided to go to the United States to spread his religion of Thelema. In the US, he gets to know a rocket engineer by the name of Jack Parsons. He also finds another friend named L. Ron Hubbard, the person that started and invented Scientology, the religion that Tom Cruise believes in. Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, and L. Ron Hubbard got together to spread a word about his religion. When he gets to the US, it seems like slowly that Aleister Crowley's money was running out. He had received a mountain of cash, but since he wasn't managing it properly, all that money was running out. And alongside that, he was getting addicted to many drugs, including heroin. In the year 1929, Aleister Crowley is heavily addicted to heroin, and he doesn't have much money left. But while this is happening, one of his fans named Maria Teresa Sanchez finds him in the street, and when they met, she sees what kind of a condition he's in and invites him to her house. Long story short, Maria and Aleister Crowley ended up getting married and having a child together. Maria Sanchez did something huge for Aleister Crowley. First of all, she got him to quit heroin, so he got clean, and she gave him a son that saved his life. He names his son Aleister Ataturk Crowley. When his son was born, his life turned around 180 degrees. It seems like after his son was born, he regretted everything that happened in his life after he left his mother's house. And he was filled with regret because he thought that his parents wanted what's best for him, and he ruined all of that. Some say that it was all his uncle's fault that made this little boy into a devil. But some other people say no, it was the parents' fault. They raised him in such a strict household with no freedom that when he finally got free, he ruined everything about his life. It seems like after all that, Satan writing, Satan worshipping, and his book of Thelema had all gone out the window, and he no longer believed in it. In the year 1947, at the age of 72, Aleister Crowley dies, and that was mostly because of bronchitis and pneumonia. He died and he wasn't that well known around the world. But fast forward around 20 years later, all of a sudden everybody's talking about Aleister Crowley because different celebrities such as John Lennon are looking at Aleister Crowley like he was a hero, and his writings are respectable. They would say live like Aleister Crowley because he did everything he wanted to. But it seems like some of these celebrities didn't fully read everything Aleister Crowley had said, because it was mostly about magic and devil worshipping, not about living freely. But it didn't stop with John Lennon, because many musicians, especially in the rock industry, talked about Aleister Crowley like he's a champ and he's a good person. There are even song names named after him which had lyrics about him. In the 1980s, Ozzy Osbourne even has a song about him named Mr. Crowley. It's a weird world because Aleister Crowley himself was regretful at the end of his life about how he lived it. But 20 years after his death, all of a sudden, all these celebrities are worshipping him. And the worshipping continues to this day because some celebrities still talk highly of him. Some say that this is because of family, and the power of family can turn a Satan worshipper into a human.